So basically we have still 4 major confrontational issues, which is the obstacle to reach an agreement up to now. Only 4. Which means that the Council and Charles Michel made a very good job to limit the number of still open questions. So when we have started it was, let's say, several dozen, but now it's only 4. So I think we have a good chance to make a deal. It's obvious the reason why we were able to reduce the number of disagreed points is basically that we are all aware how serious the situation is. It's dramatic anyway, economically. The pandemic is one thing, but we are speaking about the consequences of that on our economies. And it's worse than you think so. So the mood among us is rather pessimistic. But pessimistic is not a strong enough word to express how we see the future. So we see that big dangers are just approaching to the European economy. First, because the consequence of the first wave of the pandemic, and secondly, because of the second wave, which we all expect could come. So we are aware that we have to make a deal. So we are negotiating under the pressure that a deal is a must. We have already invested 2 days, and this is the 3rd day. And I think probably to make a deal on the still opening 4 questions request several more days. But we Hungarians are ready to stay. We manage our hotel for a week. So if we have to make a deal because of negotiating for a week, we are ready to stay. So we would not like to go home without having a solution for Europe. It's not about Hungary, because Hungary is just a small story in the big novel. It's just a small chapter. But the Hungary is relatively in a good shape, which does not mean that the future is not dangerous for us. But at this moment, relatively, we are in a better position in terms of pandemic and economic consequences and financial circumstances as well. But it's not about Hungary, it's about the European economy. Even Hungary is not part of the Eurozone, but if the Eurozone is in trouble, we will suffer. So therefore, we must have to make a deal, because of the unity is the only way to get out of this challenge of economy. So, probably we will see each other during the next week, several times. Anyway, but nothing is more important than to make a deal on the economic crisis. Vacation cannot be more important. Domestic political issues neither. Football probably, no, I'm just joking. Even football is not as important as to make a deal, So there is plenty of reason to stay if it is necessary. 4 questions. The first one is the overall size of this whole next generation package to handle properly the economic crisis. How big it should be. It's still open. The second is what should be the ratio inside this package of the grant and the loan. And there are some countries, basically the Dutch anyway, who would like to create a mechanism here which provide an influence to the Dutch to control the spending of the money basically by the South. So it's basically a dispute between the Dutch and the Italians. And what concerns Hungary, we are firmly standing on behalf of the Italians in this dispute. So the best way what we can do to give the money to those who are in need and help them to spend it as much and as soon as they can in order to stabilize their economy, instead of having complicated, bureaucratic, long disputes about programs whatsoever. So help them, because if you give something in the right time, you give twice. That's the Hungarian wisdom. So that's about grant and loan. For Hungary, may I just say, we are not treated properly. But anyway, even we can live with that. Previously, when the whole negotiation has started, the difference between countries belonging to the same category as Hungary, like Portugal and Greece, the difference was humiliating. The same size of the country, the same population, the same income level. on purchasing power. Otherwise, it's even smaller in Hungary. It's 71. And the difference was, 19 billion and 10 billion and so on. So it was not just an absurd economically and mathematically, it was humiliating. Now we are still in the second rank anyway. It's a double standard, so we haven't got what the others will get. But okay, in order the unity and be together and make a deal, we are ready to accept it. It's not fair, but at least not humiliating. That's our position. Please don't forget that the Hungarians will get the money from the new generation fund, which is basically generated by a loan. It's a loan community. A size of money which is lower than we will pay back in the forthcoming 30 years. So in long term, this business is negative for us anyway. But we can live with that. Third point is rebates. Rebates is, it's a privilege of the rich countries. And we would like to get rid of that. That was created by the British. Brexit happened. Rebate should leave also. So we should get rid of it. Because it's a privilege. There is no, because of British got it, it was logical to keep some equilibrium to provide it for some other countries as well. Because of the British. But no, British are not here anymore. So it's simply a privilege. Like it was for the aristocrats in the 19th century. So if you would like to be equal, we simply should get rid of it. But the rich countries insist on. They don't move even a single step, which is a problem anyway. It could be the final problem, the biggest one. And the fourth one is rule of law. What's going on is a little bit strange, because there is a 100% agreement on the rule of law. So everybody said, as Macron formulated, President Macron formulated, that rule of law is existential. And it's correct. So if somebody is not ready to accept the rule of law, should leave the European Union immediately. So it should not be punished by money or something, rather to say, goodbye, son, goodbye, guys. Because this community is based on rule of law, and we like that approach, it's okay. The other issue is how we can strengthen the financial control of spending the money, which we have procedures and institutions, and if the Commission wishes so, we can make it stronger, that's fine. But the proposal is not to make stronger the financial control, neither to be more clear on the rule of law procedure, but they would like to create a new mechanism. So it's not the old rule of law mechanism related to the budget. This is not the case. That would be obviously request a modification of the treaty. So therefore the idea is to create a new rule of law mechanism. And to create a new mechanism and instrument takes, a long time to be negotiated because it's a legal instrument. It must be precise, accurate, clarity, and so on and so on. So if you would like to do so, we are not against it. Let's discuss it. But it takes weeks. We are ready to do so, but a new legal instrument and mechanism must be the proper one. So that's where we are. Who are the main fighters? Red box, the Dutch. Blue corner, Hungary. So that's so simple. I don't know what is the personal reason for the Dutch Prime Minister to hate me or Hungary, but he is attacking so harshly and making very clear that because Hungary, in his opinion, does not respect the rule of law, must be punished financially. That's his position, which is not acceptable, because there is no decision about what is the rule of law situation in Hungary. We are ready, and I initiated anyway a proposal just during this summit to ask the Germans to give a guarantee that the European Council will negotiate and make a decision on the rule of law procedure against Hungary. Do it, please. Instead of creating a new mechanism, complete what we already have and what was initiated. So please make a decision on Hungary as soon as you can. So the Dutch would like to punish Hungary, but the major problem is not the Prime Minister, because Prime Ministers can make a deal. It's not easy with him anyway, but theoretically it's not impossible. The problem are the parliaments, because the Dutch parliament has a resolution and the Hungarian parliament has a resolution which is diametrically opposing each other. So we have dispute and tension, dispute is the proper expression probably, between the two governments and between the two parliaments. So we have to settle this issue somehow. So these are the main four issues. I made another proposal which was rejected, but I tried to, put it back again. And this is about NGOs. Because the experience of mine that in the recent years, NGOs who play political role, obviously, not denying that fact, even they say that they would like to have an influence on the public opinion on political issues. So that kind of NGOs got a lot of money from the budget of the European Union, and then they came to the member states and attacked the governments. So the European Union financed critical oppositional NGOs against the member states' government. I think it's not good. It's bad. We should not do that. So therefore I made a proposal that the control and the regulation of that kind of activity in financial terms as well should be the same as it is relevant to the political parties at the European level here. So we need the same regulation in terms of financing political NGOs and European political parties. But it was rejected anyway. But I tried to push it through again. So these are the situation. Takes some time, but if everybody is ready to stay, we can make a deal.
Hadd kérdezzem meg miniszterelnök úr, hogy mondta, hogy az egyik javaslatát elutasították, a másikat.
Mindent. Tehát azt, hogy adjanak egy világos garanciát, hogy Magyarországgal szemben lezárják a rule of law-t, meg lesz a döntés, mi elfogadjuk, csak legyen döntés. Ezt elutasították, az NGO-t elutasították, az új mechanizmus nyilvánvalóan amit javasoltak, összehozza a politikát, meg a gazdaságot, ez a parlament szerint sem fogadható el, és hogy a gazdagabbak ne kapjanak többet, mint a szegények, abban sokat javult a helyzet, de a rebate miatt még nem ez a helyzet, mert ezt a privilégiumot a gazdagok meg akarják tartani. Szóval ha azt kérdezi, hogy mit hajtottam eddig végre a parlamenti döntésből, csak ennyit.
Meddig tart a csúcstalálkozó, és melyek a legnagyobb vitáspontok magyar szempontból?
So the question is not how long it will be, but the deal must be reached. That's my point. Whatever is the way, how long it is, which can lead us there.
Are you willing to give Polish position regarding rule of law, and what was the outcome of the WIFOR meeting yesterday?
For some reason, the Dutch Prime Minister hates the Polish less than the Hungarians. He's less anti-Polish than anti-Hungarian, so you are a lucky guy anyway. So here my position is not to explain the position of other countries, because I don't have authority to do so. I'm speaking on behalf exclusively Hungary. I'm not speaking on behalf of V4, because V4 is led by you, the Polish Prime Minister, so it's not my job. I'm speaking on behalf of Hungary, but yeah, the Polish are fighting well. May I summarize in that way?
Prime Minister, given that you mentioned the role of the national parliaments and that you have a more comfortable majority in the Hungarian parliament than your Dutch colleague, how much room to maneuver you have on the rule of law?
I have some.
Can you mention any red lines?
Well, I think we cannot avoid to have a direct relation and direct discussion between the Dutch and the Hungarian parliament. That difference cannot be settled through the prime ministers. So the Dutch and the Hungarian parliament should find a way how they can consult and manage. That's the only way out.
Magyarország egyébként ragaszkodik az egyhangú döntéshozatalhoz a Rule of Law csomagban? Tegnap még ugye ez volt az állás, ha jól tudom.
Igen, de a vita nem az egyhangúságról szól, hanem arról, hogy akarunk-e bevezetni egy új mechanizmus. So the discussion is not about rule of law and unanimity. The dispute is going on that some, led by the Dutch, would like to introduce a new mechanism, a new instrument, which did not exist up to now. So it's not about the modification of the already existing legal scheme, make an addition or something like that. No, it's a new mechanism. The text says that this is clearly separated from any rule of law mechanism. It's a new mechanism. I think it's questionable whether it has a basis in the treaty at all. So probably the conclusion of that discussion could be that we have to create a treaty basis for that. But anyway, so it's a new mechanism. And new mechanism must be, because it's a legal mechanism, must be very well defined in terms of categories we use and the procedure as well. You know, I'm coming from an ex-communist country. How was that under the communist regime 30 years ago? You know? When the communist regime decided to attack us, even me personally, they use unclarified legal terms, exactly the same which is written in the proposal of the Dutchman. He used communist terms, he's not aware of that, but he used exactly the same one, saying general deficiencies. So when I was arrested by the police and I asked them what I have done which is illegal, and they said general deficiencies, what the hell does it mean? You know? And then the other term the Dutch guy used, the Dutch Prime Minister used in the paper is it's not necessary to do a crime or to transgress the law. If the risk is there, the procedure could be initiated. You know, the risk, that was the communist style. I have done nothing, but they said, oh, but it's risky how you behave here, you know. So these guys who inherited freedom, rule of law, and political democracy, they don't have any experience what we have who personally fought for that. So they inherited freedom. We fought for that. We have different experiences. They use terms which are dangerous because it was used against us. So, but despite this ridiculous elements of this proposal anyway, I try to take it seriously and to say, okay guys, if you would like to create a new mechanism, let's negotiate seriously in legal terms. Do it. So we are ready to do so even for days.
But otherwise, are you ready to block the whole deal if you don't find an agreement on rule of law?
It's not me. You know, I initiated nothing in that respect. So we have to clarify that if the deal is blocked, it's not because of me, but because of the Dutch guy. Because he initiated something. So I'm standing on the status quo as it is today, in the regulation of rule of law, financial control of the budget and all that kind of thing. So I think it's okay. They would like to reach something which is not good quality enough in our understanding. So if there is a break, it's because of them, not because of them. So I don't like blame game, but the Dutch man is the real responsible man for whole mess we have.
We have a bilateral
Is it
meeting
different
with
from
him
the Commission
maybe.
proposal, or is the same?
It depends on taste. I'm ready anyway.
Prime Minister, is it the same proposal that the Commission submitted, or the Dutch has altered it? Can you elaborate the difference, please?
It's basically was introduced by Charles Michel, based on the Commission, I think so. But the man who represents the text, sociologically, may I say, politically, is the Dutch Prime Minister. He is the fighter. Charles Michel only introduced it and said that this is a possible suggestion for a compromise and so on. The Commission said we support it, and the Dutch Prime Minister represent and fight for it. The same, may I just underline, the same Italian-Dutch match also, you know, on grant and loan ratio, which is an Italian-Dutch. So the Dutch Prime Minister is the leader of this whole dispute today. Yesterday.
So you can accept the proposition of Mr. Michel, but not the position of Mr. Rutte.
The proposal, we said that we think that we don't need that kind of new mechanism. But if you would, that's our position, because what we have is okay. If you would like to create a new one, do it seriously. It cannot be managed, a new mechanism, in 5 sentences. Come on. It's a legal masterpiece, you know, a new mechanism, a new instrument. It does not work like that. So do it seriously. And I would like to underline, my point is that because rule of law is, how President Macron said, existential. If somebody is not ready to accept rule of law, should kick out of the community. Not to say that you should pay some money. No, this is not the case. Leave the community, because rule of law is the sense. You know, I'm coming from an ex-communist country again. So rule of law was the basis to fight against communist regime in name of the freedom. Because, you know, the communist regime was based not on rule of law. And we said that we would like to have a Western European society based on the rule of law. So I'm a fighter for rule of law. Because fight for freedom and fight for rule of law is the same thing in the Central European mind. So if somebody is not ready to accept it, please leave the community. It's a community of values as well.
You still
there
want
any
to
more
have a
questions,
Western. You still want to have a Western society in Hungary? You just said.
Because of the migration, now it's more complicated. The migration changed our understanding of the West, because we would not like to have multicultural, parallel societies based on migration and so on. So we don't have that approach. So now the difference between the western part of the continent and the eastern part is obvious because of the migration question and the consequences of that on the political thinking. But it's another issue. It's not part of the negotiation today.
In this new mechanism, if it would be introduced, who would have the say if the rule of law is breached, in your opinion?
Sorry?
I'm sorry. If there is a new mechanism, if you would in the end agree on it, the big question is who decides on if there's a breach in rule of law. What do you think about that?
That's the question. It's not my proposal, so the answer is not come to me. It goes to those who make the proposal. So up to now, the European Court made all the decisions. That was very simple. So because legal procedure must be concluded by legal decision. But now they would like to have a legal procedure concluded by a political decision made by politicians as we are. Okay, it's not my idea. I would not like to attack or defend that idea, but it's strange, you know. So it's not legal, it's political. You know, Eurova said clearly, what counts is not the text. What really counts is the context. You know, to somebody from the ex-communist country, you know, that was the communist argument. The legal text does not count, the context, you know. So we can't accept that kind of approach as a basis for a new instrument. Sorry, but I think I have to go back to my Dutch friend. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.